to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid-lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast, and I just noticed I lost my webcam. Hold on just a second. Holy crap, what the heck? All right, there we go. For some reason, it decided to stop working. Okay. Hello. This is the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid-lubricated show on the interwebs. God. Oh, technical difficulties abound. Anyway, hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome. All right. So, after the Dems this week, or last week, suffered a great loss, they seem to have started to rack up a series of essentially failures with regards to the things that they're doing. Of course, the big talk of the town in the Dems world has been the January 6th committee. In fact, I actually have had a couple people who have reached out to me on either social media or in comments in a couple of videos from a little while back. And they've pretty much been telling me, oh, you're not watching the January 6th committee meeting, so you don't know all the dangerous and nasty and everything, all the things that Trump did. And Trump is the antichrist kind of scenario. They're talking about how bad he was and all that kind of stuff. But, the fact of the matter is that they keep trying to get this guy and they can't seem to get anything on him. It's like he's Teflon. And I'm not saying that there is anything to get him on, to be honest. But they keep trying to throw stuff against the wall and they can't seem to make it stick. And, part of the reason for that, of course, is the fact that there really is nothing there. I mean, we all know the January 6th committee is a partisan hack, politically motivated job sham trial. I mean, in terms of a trial, so first of all, I mean, let's just be completely honest here. The whole purpose of congressional committees has always been to deal with mostly oversight. Like if the executive branch is not using the money appropriately that was handed to them by Congress or something along those lines, I mean, let's kind of dig back into the files. You look at Benghazi, you look at the Iran-Contra scandal. I mean, most of those are what committees are supposed to do. This is actually more of a mock criminal trial. And one of the challenges that they have is that they keep trying to prove something that is, as of yet, been able to be proven. And every single time that they bring something out, this is going to be the new revelation that's going to cause everyone to just fall at our feet and bow down in shame because they supported this guy. Every time they do something and they try to trot something out, it's not even close to what either we already knew it, or B, it's nothing. There's no legal recourse to this thing. And that was exemplified today. And I'm going to get into that in just a few minutes. I also have a wonderful submission for Pet of the Week. And hopefully he shows up in the chat on Rumble here or YouTube, because, I got a couple questions. Just because the email didn't have a lot of details. So I'm going to be suppositioning some things and asking questions, of course. And so there's that. And then I also have a bunch of other articles that you may not have seen that will be contributing to the Dems trying to bail out the sinking ship. And for those who are not anywhere near boats, the idea of bailing is you're taking on water, you're sinking, And so you bail with a bucket or whatever else you can get a hold of to try and keep the boat afloat without having it fill up with so much water that it sinks below the surface. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending upon which way you want to look at it, the Dems are, they're bailing, but they're failing to keep that ship afloat for whatever reason. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of the we'll call it the money stuff. So the Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government, as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, IOTC, that's India Oscar Tango Charlie, Whiskey Musings, all lowercase, all one word, .online to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.whiskeymusings.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.whiskeymusings.online. Or if you want to just purchase this fabulous Saddleback, buddy tested and buddy approved leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online, and you can order. You'll get sent right to the page that this is on, so go check them out today. And by the way, for those of you who are listening who have signed up for the Constitution course that I am hosting coming up soon, I will be getting details out to all of you that have responded via email, probably after this weekend's show. So look for it to be coming Saturday or Sunday, something like that. All right. Thank you, Institute on the Constitution, for allowing me to be an affiliate. Okay. So in lieu of a poem tonight, because I know most of the time I do something different. Like on Saturday, I do the reading out of the American Patriots Almanac. Tonight, I happened across this right before I came on air, and I'll be honest with you, it fits with the theme of the program. You do know that, of course, whenever something like this comes out, the jokesters of the net also come up with memes. Now, this particular meme, like I said, I saw this right before I came on the air, so I had to grab it. Let me go ahead and show it to you now. Let me make sure that this is the one. Nope, not that one. It's this one. So let me go ahead and show that. So check this out. So our friend Cassidy Hutchinson says, I was eating my Subway sandwich when Trump took it, grabbed an AR-15 and said, "This is mega country, bitch." I mean, I'm sorry. You know, no, actually, I'm not sorry. This is hilarious. The people who come up with these memes, they are just absolutely hilarious. I've seen several of them. I did a show on memes at one point. But this one just made me laugh, considering that the situation and, considering everything that has been going on for the last, 12 to 24 hours, and how the Dems have been fawning over her, especially the Rhino Dem, Cheney out of Montana. It's just, oh my gosh, it's just funny. All right. So let's kind of talk. I mean, I've been kind of saying I've been staying away from the January 6th committee, and rightfully so, because to be honest with you, it's a sham. It's a partisan hack job. That's literally all it is. They can't even call it like a criminal trial for reasons like I just talked about in my opening monologue. Oh, I just looked down. Excuse me. I am off pace here, so I've got to show you. This is tonight's drink vessel tonight. And what is in it? Well, you know, if Hannah and Mark would actually watch this program, they would know this is my favorite whiskey. For those of you that don't watch the Mark K show, we were on it the other day, and they had asked me directly during one of their breaks what my favorite whiskey was. That is it. Jameson Black Barrel. And that's what's in the America shot glass tonight for drinking. All right. And speaking about that, kind of got to toast the victories that have been coming for the last week. It is awesome. Anyway. All right. To get back to what I was saying. All right. I've been avoiding the January 6th committee because it is a sham. We know it's not a criminal trial, because if it was a criminal trial, you would have, lawyers, and you would have rebuttals. You would have both sides. They're not even allowing any of that now. They are picking and choosing what they want to show you. They're not allowing anyone to provide any alternative situations, maybe additional information that might add context, might add a rebuttal, and everything else. And this was no different than last night when they had this special surprise witness. Now, the reason why I say it was a special surprise was because it was an emergency gathering. The January 6th committee was actually going to take some time off before the Independence Day holiday coming up this weekend. And then they were going to take a couple weeks off, and then they were going to reconvene. And the thing about it is that they threw this out there, and of course the media just grabbed it up. They were just lapping it up. And the reasons for this that they said was because of the fact that they wanted to protect Ms. Hutchinson. And, make sure, because apparently she had death threats against her or something, or she was concerned for her safety, which that's not a joking matter. I mean, as anyone can tell, if you look at the, justices like Clarence Thomas and Kavanaugh here over the course of the last couple of weeks, especially after that, actually the last month, ever since the draft opinion had gotten leaked, up to last Friday's announcement that they were repealing Roe versus Wade. There is a real fear in some cases when you have to deal with politically and emotionally charged situations like this. But the thing about it is that when they brought her on, it was with the pomp and circumstance to essentially try and build her up and build her testimony up. And she was, advertised as this, this aide to Mark Meadows. And she was supposed to give this she's Republican, some of the video clips that I've seen, Cheney mentioned that. They kind of wanted to build her up. And the thing about it is whenever you do that, in any way, shape, or form, whenever you build somebody up like that, you really have to deliver what you promise on the buildup. And as we know, Dems have a very hard time delivering on their promises, especially nowadays. And so Cassidy Hutchinson sat down and she started telling these stories. And Dan Bongino rips her apart on the vehicle aspect. For everyone that doesn't know, she testified apparently that Trump tried to attack the Secret Service inside of his vehicle and get him to drive to the Capitol building. And they basically reportedly told him that he was that they wanted to go back to the West Wing because they couldn't secure his safety at the Capitol building at the time and that kind of stuff. They didn't have enough personnel, whatever it was. And so he's reportedly like leaned over, grabbed the steering wheel, grabbed one of the Secret Service men by the throat, that kind of thing, and just was essentially what the press would love to have you believe, that he was just an unhinged, wild man trying to do all of these things to essentially enact his will on the 2020 elections. And well, let's just say it fell flat. And the reason why I'm saying that is because they didn't apply, the press especially didn't apply the Dan Bongino rule, which is essentially wait, up to 72 hours afterward in order to get the real scoop. And the real scoop actually is that there are the two Secret Service agents that were called out by this person are basically saying, hey, we're willing to testify to offer rebuttal to that. And then also there's been some information that has come out that the Secret Service wasn't even consulted by the committee prior to putting her in place. And let me show you that one. So this is coming from the Epoch Times, and right here, former Meadows aide, January 6th testimony denied by Trump and the Secret Service. And the funny thing about this is that, she painted those two individuals. And again, Dan Bongino knows them personally. He's worked with them in the past. I highly encourage you to go to Rumble and watch his episode for today, because he basically breaks it down a lot better than I could. And I'm going to be honest with you, he's got the bona fides, as he says, to back it up, because not only did he work with these people, he personally knows these people. He also worked in the sector that these people are in. So he can tell you details, or he can give you context and details about the entire thing dealing with the car and that incident. And he goes ahead and does it. And it's a great listen. His podcast is about an hour, and it's well worth your time to go ahead and do that. But the thing about it is that, the Dems and all of the liberal sycophants, they've been hopping onto Twitter in particular, and they're like, well, you don't think that Cheney would have vetted all of this out before she put this woman under oath? And, that question came up today during the Mark Kaye show also, was regarding the oath. And there actually is an oath, but according to the House rules, they can pick and choose when somebody takes an oath and when somebody doesn't. Like, for an example, they had a testifying, I think it was Mayorkas, they had him testify, and rather than have him take the oath prior to his testimony, they just basically said, oh, by default, his position makes it so that he is already under oath. He's going to tell the truth, and so on and so forth. And the reality of these oaths, if you think about it, has to deal with the fact that it's designed in a specific way to make sure that the person who is testifying has a perception or a viewpoint, an understanding. I can't think of any other adjectives here, of the magnanimity or the magnanimous part of that situation. So in other words, they are supposed to be awed and be like, oh my gosh, I'm taking this oath. This is a formal procedure, so on and so forth. And I should respect that oath. I should respect the procedure, the people here. This is a dignified space, and I should actually respect all of this. In some cases, you can actually get charged with what's called perjury. At least in a court of law, when you are proven to perjure yourself on the stand, you can get charged, and you can go and have jail time and fines, and there are actual punishments afterward. The question becomes, though, as to whether or not these committee meetings actually carry that same weight. Because for those of you that may not remember, several people have been served with subpoenas from the congressional committee, and these are both Dems and Republicans alike. So recently it's been Republicans, but Eric Holder basically did not respond to a subpoena back in the Obama era, did not respond to a subpoena from a committee request for him to appear, and he never got anything. So, the reality of it is that unless you are willing to actually enforce, just like any law that's on the books, unless you're willing to enforce it, and we're finding this out, especially now with some of the district attorneys that are refusing to enforce the laws in cities like Seattle and LA and several other major cities throughout the country when it comes to crime, San Francisco, things like that. If you get into a place where there's no enforcement, then the law literally doesn't mean anything. So, it could be on the books for generations, which there are a lot of laws on the books that are not enforced at all. And so the idea that you're coming in and giving this oath is essentially, my word is my bond, realistically. And so, when you have this person come in and she sat down, you have to really, really, really listen to how she phrases things and how she says things, because the way that she responded to some of the questions and some of her statements allow her a lot of wiggle room. And one of the first things that I noticed, that a lot of people noticed, was the fact that most of what she talked about, she refers to other people. And so essentially a lot of her information is secondhand or third-hand information. Now, obviously the committee members were like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the nail in Trump's coffin. This is really going to be it. But any person with any sense knows that if the Department of Justice were actually going to do its job and do it properly, that she didn't really provide anything from a legal standpoint that wouldn't get easily slapped down in court by a defense attorney. And what am I talking about? Well, in the law, when you go and are called as a witness, there's a certain level of I'm trying to think of a word for it, but there's a certain level where they expect that you're going to have firsthand knowledge of the events in question. And that usually, especially if you ever watch crime TV and stuff like that, if you watch the courtroom, whenever somebody says, well, Johnny told me Harry said, which essentially would be second-hand information, or Johnny told his sister Sarah, who told Harry that, or who said that Harry said, that would have been third-hand information. And usually second-hand and third-hand information is unreliable. So one of the big things that's coming into this is most of her testimony, if not all of it, is essentially from a legal perspective known as hearsay, and would very easily have been objected to in the courtroom had this been an actual courtroom. All right. So let me show you this. This also came from the Epoch Times, but there's several others that are out there talking about this. The Cassidy Hutchison testimony on January 6th, or at the January 6th hearing, would be inadmissible in real court, according to an attorney. And that's essentially what is going on here. By bringing her out, they thought that they had somebody who would be able to, again, put the nail in the coffin of Trump and finally show that Trump was the bad guy and he was an unhinged, wild, mad, raving lunatic. When in actuality, for those who really are looking at this from the standpoint of more than just a partisan hack sham job, they're actually looking at it and going, well, wait a minute. And most of what she said, if not all of it, was hearsay. It was somebody told me this, or somebody said this, somebody else mentioned it, or I overheard the conversation from, I was walking by and somebody else told me this. And so what ends up happening is these people are essentially grasping at straws. I'm sorry for all of you people who have been duped and are drinking the Kool-Aid. There is literally nothing here. Trump went and said peacefully and patriotically protest. He did not, number one, did not know ahead of time any kind of plans. He was not the ringleader. He was not somebody who was trying to pull the purse strings in the background and try to get, stuff. He may have acted irrationally at times because we know that he kind of does. I mean, you piss him off, he tends to go off and say stuff that maybe he, probably shouldn't. I get that. And that's just the way that he is. But to make that a impeachable offense, like in the 2 impeachment trials, or to try and make it to keep him from running again, that's like ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And this, in my mind, just further delegitimizes this entire January 6th committee because of the fact that at least she could have been like, well, I was a part of these conversations. I mean, if you're going to lie, might as well go all the way. And one of the things about lying that I've been told and heard many times, that when you're going to lie, you need to make sure that you are specific. And the thing about it is that she had some very specific details, and those details seemed a little out of place. You've got to remember, January 6, 2020 was several years ago now. It's a couple years ago. And she is recalling these things as though it were yesterday. And not only that, but of the stuff that she is recalling, if you listen to the way she answers, she's more making of not he said, quote, but more of he kind of sort of alluded to and sort of meant this, but maybe said that, or I can't remember specifically what he said, but it was more of a feeling like it was an interpretation of this. That's a lot of her testimony. And a lot of that, believe it or not, is generally frowned upon in actual courts, which realistically, let's face it, if these guys actually had anything, I don't think they'd be going through this January 6th committee. They wouldn't even bother with this process. The DOJ would have had the evidence, would have had him up on charges, would have arrested him, and so on and so forth. I mean, especially with Garland's DOJ. I mean, seriously, Garland is probably the most partisan attorney generals that we've had in quite some time. And if there was anything there from a legal perspective, from a truly legal perspective, he probably would have already charged Trump and any of these people that have been under the gun and so on and so forth with actual crimes. And they would be going through a grand jury and a trial. Instead, what this is basically, like I said, a partisan hack job to try and smear the man's name in the court of public opinion rather than an actual criminal court in order to prevent him from winning in 2024. Because that ultimately is where they're headed with this. Okay, so as far as some other surprising developments with January 6th, it wasn't just Ms. Hutchinson's testimony, but there's also something else that you may have missed. The Senate Sergeant at Arms, his name's Michael Stenger. He was in charge of the Capitol security on January 6th. And he unfortunately died yesterday at the age of 71. Now, his cause of death has not been publicly announced. And supposedly he already has funeral arrangements for July 2nd, which makes me wonder if he actually, if they actually know. I mean, I'm sure that they know his cause of death if they're planning on doing funeral services that fast. So the point that I'm making here is that this person who was within the chain of command, okay, and we all know that Trump offered to enact the National Guard troops 4 days prior. We all know that Nancy Pelosi, who is constitutionally in charge of the security and the police there, turned down the offer of the additional help. There's some reports that they were suggesting to put up fencing and things like that because they knew that there was going to be a big crowd. It's mostly for crowd control and possibly preventing things from getting out of hand. All of that was reportedly denied as well. And so this person who is actually in the chain of command, again, the Sergeant at Arms, Michael Stenger, he died yesterday, or either yesterday or the day before, hours before the surprise hearing. And what's interesting about him in particular is not so much his placement, but also his earlier testimony that was videotaped actually has an interesting phrase in it. And I believe I've got the video queued up. So let me pop back over here, and I've got the video queued up. And so let's go ahead and listen to the statement. It's only a few seconds long, so it's going to be quick. But let's listen to his statement here that he says.
Investigations. Law enforcement coordination in the National Capital Region should be reviewed to determine what can be done in a more efficient and productive manner. Intelligence collection and dissemination. Training and concepts on the use of force must be consistent.
Oh, wait. Sorry. That was not where I wanted it. Anyway, okay. So let me just explain to you what he said. That wasn't quite what it was, but what he made a comment on, and I got to find it now because they did write it down. And I've lost it where it is in print. Oh, here it is. Right here. So let me go ahead and highlight this. Oops. And the technical issues continue. This one is actually a ID10 key or ID10T key rule. So this statement here basically states, and he says it actually in the video, if I queued it up properly, it would have been there. But he says investigation should be considered as to funding and travel of what appears to be professional agitators. So in his professional opinion, basically what he is saying is that he believes that the people who committed the crimes on January 6th were actually professional agitators. Now, I'm not saying that his death has anything to do with the fact that the committee has lost traction and is not giving us anything that we really need, and that he was, maybe silenced either accidentally or on purpose to prevent him from saying this, because we do have the video record of him stating this as a part of his statement to the January 6th committee in previous testimony. But the thing about it is that he calls out the fact that professional agitators were likely used as a part of the January 6th committee, or as part of the January 6th riots. And this is something that the committee is not even looking at. In fact, I had to go to the Daily Mail, which I'll be honest with you, is out of UK and is questionable at best in some of its stories. But I even had to go there just to get a videotape of him saying this. And, the thing about it is that a lot of people are missing here is what's not being said is possibly the more crucial than what actually is being said. And we have to look beyond just what's being presented to us. It's sort of like going to a magic show. They're sitting here trying to confuse us and misdirect us and use mirrors and sleight of hand tricks and so on and so forth in order to create this illusion that Donald Trump acted as the ringleader of a massive scale to do an insurrection, when in actuality, it was just a series of circumstances that went into play. This is why the January 6th committee is, in my view, again, totally illegitimate. I mean, other than the fact that realistically, congressional committee hearings are not supposed to be done in a criminal nature like they are, like it's being used right now. But the fact of the matter is that this is horrible. This is a waste of resources, a waste of time, a waste of money. They're taking up airtime on television because all of the major networks are trying to bury Donald Trump because they don't like his politics. They don't like his policies. They don't like what he did for the country to reinvigorate America and to prevent the takeover by the socialist, communist, Marxist left wing of the Democrat Party. All right, so let's do this.
Please check your mailbox. A new message has arrived.
All right, so before I move on to my next, let's go ahead and pull up the pet of the week. And this submission, let me get rid of this. Whoops. And this submission comes to us from Barnacle Bill. And these are Butch and Sundance. Now, if I recall correctly, I think these are Cocker Spaniels. And again, this was one of the questions that I wanted to ask Barnacle Bill when he came here. But these, I believe, are Cocker Spaniels. And I'm guessing from the names that they're two males. But it looks like they hang out together. They chill out together. They do a lot of things together. And that is this week's Pet of the Week. So thank you, Barnacle Bill, for that submission. Do me a favor, if you have a Pet of the Week or would like your pet's photo brought up on my Wednesday show, email me a photo, the animal's name, and then any other pertinent information that you might want to add to fans, FANS at whiskeymusings.online. And if you want that written form, I do have it in the description of the video. And actually, Buddy is right. Buddy popped up. He just said that they might be Brittany Spaniels as well. You are correct. They could be that too. I know they're a spaniel of some kind. I'm pretty sure they're not Springer Spaniels, but I can't remember if they're Cocker. I think they're Cocker, but they could be Brittany Spaniels. So anyway, so that is the Pet of the Week. And again, if you want to submit your photo or photos of your pets to Pet of the Week, put them in a little costume if you can. That would be kind of cool if you can do that. I know that we had Bubba in a costume. And so, yeah, just send it on in to fans at whiskeymusings.online. And again, that is in the description of the video as well. All right. So along with the sham committee that we had, we also have several other articles that popped out. And of course, one of the major things that the Dems are going to do, especially coming up to the midterms, I mean, let's face it, they already know that they're in trouble. They already know, based on polling and everything else, that Joe Biden is essentially the poisoned tree. You get close to him, you touch him, you do anything with him, and your points and everything go down. They've already presented all of this. The thing about it is, though, is that the Dems are also grasping at straws. They're trying to reach to other things. And one of the things that they reached out to is the idea of abortion and Roe versus Wade in particular. Now, again, those of us with sense and knowledge and understanding, we know that the decision that was done last Friday does not necessarily illegal or make abortion illegal. All that decision did was correct a decades-long error, and an egregious one, if you ask me, of a overreach by the federal government, in particular legislating from the Supreme Court bench, that essentially abortion was supposed to be, legal and constitutional as a right. It was not. It never was. It never will be. It's not written in the Constitution. And the reason why I say never will be basically means that it has to go through a constitutional amendment hurdle that I highly doubt is going to happen or going to occur in order to get it into the Constitution. However, there are several states that are looking at codifying it as a part of their state constitutions, which again, they also have all of their own amendment processes and stuff that they go through. That is probably a easier pill for them to swallow. But the thing about it is that the Dems felt that the Roe v. Wade decision, because in their mind, the predominance of the country actually didn't want Roe v. Wade overturned. Now, I talked a little bit about this. There is a movement within the country. Most people, there are most people who, at least admit that first trimester abortions are probably, they're kind of iffy. You wouldn't want to get one, but, it's not our place in terms of the right. We don't ever really believe that it's our place to necessarily push our beliefs onto somebody else. And so, okay, we can see where, all right, the first trimester, yeah, if you really want to get one, okay. In most places, I won't say all, but in most places, that's the way it is. And for those who have a personal viewpoint of being against it, like I do, where I believe that life begins at conception, and so therefore a life must be protected, I would lean on the side of banning abortion altogether. However, I do understand that there are circumstances that would possibly require, such as the health of the mother, to have a procedure done that would prevent the pregnancy. Okay. It is a fact of technological life and our current science in order to be able to do that. Now, the Dems have been leaning on the Roe v. Wade decision, and they've felt like this is going to be a big change in the American system, and especially for voting, because so many people, according to them, so many people believe that abortion should be codified and be a right. Well, kind of interesting. This article from Hot Air. Now, I'm not necessarily a Hot Air subscriber, but I did see this, and I have seen some things come out. And of course, they reference a New York Times article, which we all know the New York Times is a propaganda rag, but it's also a rag that puts everything behind a paywall. So I have to use them instead of paying for the New York Times article. But let me go ahead and bring this up. And this is from Hot Air. And this is talking about, will the end of Roe recast the elections in November? And according to the New York Times, it may not have even made much of a difference, even in June. And we've kind of seen this in some of the primaries that are running right now. But apparently, in quoting it from the New York Times, they're basically saying that voter turnout looked typically sluggish, meaning that normally happens during primary years and off years. We don't get as many voters, and this is a statistical fact. You don't get as many voters in off years as you do in presidential elections, because we've all been conditioned to understand that the presidential election is a really huge, big deal, rather than focusing locally where we really should be focusing. In order to be able to really get true government and true law and legislation done at the local levels. But their quote here, they say, The Supreme Court decision ending the constitutional right to abortion was expected to motivate voters. Turnout in several states hosting primaries on Tuesday, however, appeared to be typically sluggish, at least so far. All of those states have various forms of early voting, meaning that many ballots may have been cast before the court struck down the landmark Roe v. Wade case on Friday. So they say that, and you know, it's kind of interesting because although that's true, they also miss, and this article says this, they also miss a really key important point, and that is that the draft opinion got leaked well before these people had the opportunity to vote. And so I don't think necessarily that it's going to have the impact that the Dems actually think it's going to. I think that for the most part, most people are, you know what, that was the right decision. And now we have the decision in our hands at the state level to be able to go and say, all right, you know, we're going to either pass it or don't pass it, or they already had laws in place that, you know, you can't really do anything about. You know, they'd already voted on it and the decision is settled kind of idea. So I honestly think that the Dems are, again, grasping at straws with the idea that Roe versus Wade is going to be a big issue. So the next thing, and I don't know if anybody heard this, but the next thing on their list is Congress has brought together a committee on codifying or doing something about transgender rights. And so, you know, they're putting together this committee to examine this, I guess. And it actually is an interesting tactic by the Dems to do this. But one thing that I found kind of interesting, and this article came out of Town Hall, is that I'm not exactly sure that it's going to necessarily help them either. Let me explain why. So this came from Town Hall, and it's in reference to a Pew Research poll that the massive survey, the Pew Research survey, finds American views on gender are shifting, but not in the way that leftists want. And the reason why I pull up this article is they have this this quote that came out from the Pew survey, which essentially says roughly 8 in 10 U.S. adults say there is at least some discrimination against transgender people in our society, and a majority favor laws that would protect transgender individuals from discrimination in jobs, housing, and public spaces. But at the same time, 60% say that a person's gender is determined by their sex assignment at birth. Now, what's interesting about this is if you look at this graphic that's here, and I'll explain because I do have some audio listeners as well. I'm recording the audio program, or there might be some live audio listeners too on Spreaker. But the percentage has actually gotten more and more in the determined by the sex assigned at birth category over the years. So they show this graphic that back in September of 2017, it was a 44-54 split. 44% said that it can be different from the assigned birth sex, and 54% said that it actually is determined by the sex that is assigned at birth. Then in June 21, they did the same poll, and it ended up being a 41-56 split. So there was a shift of roughly a couple percentage points. Now, in May of 2022, they retook it, and now the shift is 38% for that your gender can be different than the sex assigned at birth, to a whopping 60% saying that it is determined by the sex assignment at birth. So, you know, I don't think that the Dems and the leftists really truly understand America. I don't think they truly understand the people that are out there who are essentially, starting to get tired of being pushed in a direction that we literally know better. I mean, there's absolutely no differentiation in terms of biology versus gender in most Americans' minds. And that's what this poll basically shows. Okay. So the next thing that I want to say next thing that I want to bring up is as far as losers and losing and bailing. They tried to cover up the Hunter Biden laptop when it came out in October of 2020. That was the October surprise. And the New York Post put it out first, and then it got quashed by social media and the tech giants. And you ended up with a little bit later on, 6 months, maybe a little bit longer than that, where the existence of the laptop was verified. Well, now it comes around to today, and we've had several things that have been verified as being authentic out of the laptop. And why the Dems even try to deny this existence of this thing and the information that's on it, I have no idea. However, Joe Biden has once again been caught in a lie. Let me show you what I mean about that. Apparently, there was a voicemail, a copy of a voicemail on this laptop that essentially stated that Joe Biden knew about Hunter's China business dealings. And what in particular, and I want to read the actual voicemail message. I'm going to read the transcript of it. He says, Joe Biden says to Hunter, leaves this voicemail message on Hunter's phone, which eventually ended up on his laptop. He says, quote, "Hey pal, it's Dad. It's 8:15 on a Wednesday night. If you get a chance, just give me a call. Nothing urgent. I just wanted to talk with you. I thought the article released online, it's going to be printed tomorrow in the Times, was good. I think you're clear. And anyway, if you get a chance, give me a call. I love you." Now, what he's referring to is an article that was published by the Times that had Hunter Biden's business dealings with the now defunct CEFC, a conglomeration in China, and in particular, two individuals directly that were, again, Miranda Devine did an awesome job. If you get a chance to read the book Laptop from Hell, she outlines all of this. And what you see here is basically a confirmation of the fact that not only did Hunter Biden deal with China in possible illegal communications and business dealings, but also that Joe Biden already knew, even though he said multiple times in multiple places during his campaign. And in September of 2019, he basically stated that I have never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. We got you, Joe. I mean, I'm sorry, but quit. All he's done, this man, literally his entire career has been nothing but lies and plagiarism throughout his entire 50-year public service career. And he's been caught several times plagiarizing and lying. He's done it in the past, so on and so forth. I mean, I'm sorry. This guy is just absolutely horrible when it comes to this stuff. But it's not just him. He's not the only one, because his administration also has some very nefarious actors. So before I get into this next article, let me explain to you something. There's a thing called the Hatch Act. And the Hatch Act basically makes it to where somebody who is in a government position cannot use that position to basically stump for another political party. There was a big blow up with Trump in particular, where he wanted to hold the Republican announcement of his candidacy again for 2020 on the White House lawn. And so there was some question thrown around by the Democrats as to whether or not by doing that, he violated the Hatch Act. Well, we have an article here from the Epoch Times that basically states that apparently Biden's energy secretary violated the Hatch Act when she promoted Democrats, according to a United States special counsel's office. Okay. So apparently Jennifer Granholm violated the Hatch Act when she endorsed the Democrat Party while she was in her capacity as a federal official during an interview that she had last year, according to the U.S. Office of Special Counsel this week. Granholm, the OSC said, explicitly endorsed Democrats during an October 6th interview in her official capacity as Energy Secretary with Marie Claire. And apparently the article kind of goes on that she engaged in political activity when she gave a response promoting the electoral success of the Democrat Party, according to Erica Hammock, the deputy chief of the OSC's Hatch Act unit. They told the Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust in a response letter. The group had the Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust apparently had requested that the OSC investigated whether she violated the Hatch Act after the interview was released. Folks, these people have no respect for the law. They have absolutely no respect for the law. I don't think that was a mistake. I can tell you, working for companies, I've been told in multiple occasions what is through a ethics training or whatever. I have been told that, this kind of activity is right and proper. This kind of activity is not. This kind of activity kind of falls in the gray area. And so you need to get permission before you do it. These people are very well aware of what they are ethically and morally supposed to do and what they can't do. And they just don't care. They don't care. They have a commander in chief who literally did a quid pro quo with the Ukraine situation back when he was vice president. He literally said, I want something for this money that I'm going to hand over, that I'm supposed to hand over to you as a part of the United States. He did that. He is on video saying it. He literally did it. You cannot deny it. He says it as a part of his speech as he's talking to these people. They all believe that they are above the law, that they're not going to get indicted or anything else because of Garland being in the place of the DOJ. I am telling you, the more that guy is involved, the more I am so happy that he never got confirmed. I'm not happy about a lot of Mitch McConnell's things that he has done. I think he's a rhino. I think he is a Republican or a Democrat in sheep's clothing to join with the rhinos. I think he needs to be voted out. I don't live in his state, so I can't do it. However, by his action in blocking and not holding the hearings to confirm Garland, that was a key pivotal point in this entire fight. Could you just imagine if Garland was a Supreme Court justice? We already know he doesn't have any ethics because he is using the DOJ to attack general, average, everyday Americans. He has had his FBI become the Gestapo to go out after political opponents of the Democrats. And this is all stuff that is evidentiary, all on tape, all and everything else. And yes, Buddy says Kentucky. That is correct. He is from Kentucky, I believe. You are correct, Buddy. So anyway, the point being here is that, the Dems are grasping at straws. They're basically, they hear the death knell. They hear what's going on. They see the wins that Trump is racking up whenever he, not necessarily all the time when he endorses somebody, but definitely if he decides that you're on his bad side, he has a pretty dang good track record, even with people that he's endorsed and are promoting. And they know that the American people are waking up to all of their shenanigans here. We are starting this entire past week and a half has just been fantastic. Now, before I get on to my next article, I do want to bring up something. As far as the Supreme Court goes, Breyer has decided that tomorrow is when he is going to retire. The interesting thing about that, of course, is Ketanji Brown Jackson is going to get sworn in as soon, essentially the 1 minute after Breyer officially retires. The left is going to celebrate this, but I look at it and I say, essentially, yes, Ketanji Brown Jackson is technically a worse activist judge than what Breyer actually would have been or was, I should say. But it doesn't change the court's makeup. We are still sitting at roughly a 6-3, 5-4, depending upon which way Roberts and Gorsuch and that kind of stuff go on. Am I, upset that she got confirmed? Absolutely. I am upset that she got confirmed. But that being said, we're just swapping one baddie for another baddie, so it's not like it's really going to change us that much overall in terms of that. Now, for my last article. All right. And this comes from the Daily Wire. And I throw this in here only because I think it's amusing. It's completely amusing. That Las Vegas, Sin City, they love betting on just about everything. In fact, if you've ever been there, you can go into the betting rooms. They've got all kinds of stuff, whether it's sports, whether it's, I can't even imagine. You can bet on just about anything in Las Vegas. Well, this popped shortly before I got on tonight. So apparently the bookies who, of course are going to make money off of this, or they're going to try to, they are now putting Biden's odds in third place for winning the presidency in 2024. And to be honest, if you're an incumbent president who has actually done a fairly decent job, you usually don't get voted out. Don't get voted out. In fact, incumbency is like one of the best hedges that you can make in terms of the political betting scheme, because there's people who have been either senators or have been in the House of Representatives for decades, because people recognize the name. I mean, I'll be honest with you. People are generally they're not very attentive to what's going on when it comes to politics. Most people don't want to talk about politics, which I personally think is wrong, which is part of the reason why I'm doing the show the way that I am now. But if the bookies are betting against you and you already have the incumbency, this should really be even worse of a signal or a red flag to the Democrats, other than the fact that, inflation is so bad going up. It's not going to come down anytime soon. The fact that the Saudis have actually told through the French prime minister, they've actually told Biden, yeah, we're not going to be, upping our output anytime soon because we're already at our max limit. Biden is literally failing on just about every single front that he's in. And his administration has been falling down for a lot of times. Now, that being said, yes, he has all of the things that he has been able to do. Has been very destructive to our America and the way America usually should be. But we are fighting back. The conservative and the constitutional sects are coming back. We are fighting back, and I think that there is going to be a positive when it comes to 2022. I don't think that too many places are going to have, or too many of these distractions are going to have an effect, because when you hit Americans in their pocketbook, as evidenced by Jimmy Carter, Reagan in 1980, when you hit Americans in the pocketbook, when you hit them in the paycheck, when you make them go from being generally comfortable to living paycheck to paycheck, that's your downfall. That's where you're going to get into some problems. That's because people are going to be aware of what impacts the government has on people's lives. Biden could have avoided all this, as Ben Shapiro of the Daily Wire often says. All he had to do was be the basement dummy. Do nothing. He didn't have to do a single thing. He was sold as a moderate president, good old Grandpa Joe, who's not going to make a whole bunch of radical changes. And that was what we were sold in the lead up to the election. He got elected, and some of the first things that he's done, and since then, have literally been a complete left turn. In fact, I don't even think you can get more of a left turn without being an entire 180 than what Joe Biden has done. And so this just kind of made me chuckle. And I just had to throw it in there because, you know, over the last week, we've had a lot of wins. This is actually pretty hilarious when you think about it. All right. So that is all that I have. That is my final Whiskey Musings thought for the evening. Thank you very much for joining. And of course, as always, do me a favor. If this is your first time to the show, go over to my Rumble account, check out my other videos. And if you like them, subscribe. I'm at 188 subscribers right now. I had one taken away. I was at 189. I think it was a bot that got banned somewhere else and got taken in. It got taken away on my account, which is fine. But, you know, do me a favor, reach out to your friends, let them know what we've got going on over here. And I appreciate all of my subscribers. I appreciate everyone who has come here. Also, I do have another segment that I run on Saturday called Questions for Whiskey. I have a question already, but I'm always open to taking more. So do me a favor, send your questions in to fans@whiskeymusings.online. That's fans@whiskeymusings.online. And you can have your question show up in Questions for Whiskey on Saturday night. Like I said, I have one for this Saturday, but I can always do 2 or 3. I love to see more than less. So do me a favor and do that. And then also don't forget the pet of the week for next week. I need a pet. Please send your picture in, the pet's name, and any other pertinent information along with how you want me to refer to you on the stream to fans@whiskeymusings.online. And, you know, go and get yourself a nice leatherback Constitution at constitution.whiskeymusings.online. You can also check out my store, which has logoed gear, sweatshirts, t-shirts, all of that stuff. Bunch of things that are over there at store.whiskeymusings.online. Now, for this Saturday, which will be my Independence Day special, that is going to be, it's going to be Saturday. It's going to be at the regular time, but it is my Independence Day special. So expect a lot of American themed stuff. I probably am not going to go through any articles or anything like that unless something really special pops, like the Supreme Court decision against the EPA coming possibly tomorrow. But as far as that goes, same bat time, same bat channel, just it's going to be my Independence Day special. And of course, we have the entire weekend to celebrate our independence from England in 1776. Thank you very much, and we'll all see you next time on the Whiskey Musings broadcast. Good night, everybody.